Marco West, thank you for being with us, for taking the time out. You span generations, decades, your work, and you collaborate together. How's that feel that you're able to come and become one on a movie and, see the movie, hear the score, and it comes out exactly how hopefully you would. How's that make you feel that you're able to do that together?
A lot of marriage counseling. a lot of those big puffy boxing gloves. I think we're just kind of like, birds of the same feather musically, and Marco is remarkably gifted, so I tend to just describe in words what I want and then try to get out of his way, basically. Which I think is very important.
How's that, that you're able to come together? How's that, really make you feel that you're able to come together and do something like that?
It really means a lot to me that, over the course of all these years and the films that Wes has done, that he still wants me to write music for him. So you sometimes write, you're in a vacuum, it's hard to know exactly, and whether it's just the pressures of the picture and all everything, but the real truth of the matter is when a director wants to come back for another picture, and so it's great. It's been really great working with Wes.
Wes, you had mentioned something that. So I want to ask you a question. Do you hear the music when you see the movie? Have you ever come from a point of perhaps you heard a piece and suddenly images start running through your head and thought, oh, I can do this? Has that ever happened?
The nearest I come to that is when I write myself, and I didn't write the Scream films, but like we did My Soul to Take, which I wrote. I listen to music all the time, so I think that sort of energy and so forth is very important to me. I hate sitting alone in a room without that. But I don't think then I say, oh, that's what I want the score to sound like. It just take the energy from it.
And Marco, has that happened to you? And perhaps not you watch movie, right. Well, that perhaps there was an outside influence, not necessarily a script or a movie, and then you think, well, I'm going to write a piece for this, which ends up being in a movie. Like perhaps you read a book and a melody comes to your head, and you think, wow, this will work great in a suspense movie. Has anything outside of the industry influenced you that way?
I think the source of inspiration comes from all different. You apply things from everywhere and integrate it into what you do. So yes, I mean it comes from a lot of different sources. Yeah.
That's right. Wes, you had said something that you enjoyed comedy. That now was that the avenue you were going to pursue, and just the genre that you ended up doing now? Those doors open? How did that come about?
No, actually, it was just something I did recreationally, and in high school, college, writing skits and doing kind of improv and things like that. But it was and kind of satirical things that I would post on my door, things like that. I was really looking to be a serious writer of short stories or novels, and because I hadn't been exposed to films much, so it really wasn't until I was out of graduate school and teaching that I started watching movies and just was kind of swept away by them. So I went to New York to learn how to make movies, basically just the process. And after the first year of being there, just by fluke, a friend of mine got offered a budget to make a very, very low budget scary movie. And he said, go write something scary, and if they like it, you can direct it. It was as freakish as that, So wrote Last House on the Left, and they liked it, so I directed it, and it became a big hit. And then nobody would ever think of me for anything else but doing something horribly depraved. So the humor kind of snuck in between all the cracks in my films. But I do find that both comedy and terror, terror or horror are subversive in the sense that they kind of get under the skin and they go go to areas. Even rock and roll is, it's kind of the forbidden music. Now it's become the voice of many generations. But when it came out, it was considered to be not worthy of being heard, and dangerous to youth and so forth. So it's that sort of thing of getting at the sort of the unspoken part of important part of life. I think for both comedy and for horror are part of it. And I often think of doing a scary movie as a sort of a dark joke, because you're talking about stuff that makes us jumpy, and that's quite often the most important stuff in life.
Wow. So when you read a script or when you come up with an idea, do you look for that, like you mentioned, to get under your skin factor? Yeah. And is that kind of something that you look for? We know a scary movie, gets you in your emotionally, but do you purposely look for something that really goes deep, that'll really grab a person?
I think so. And even with music, I mean, it's not all about just shrieking strings. It's about those subtle undercurrents and sort of, the water seeping out of a door sort of feel, where the audience is almost not aware of it at first. And so you kind of set them up emotionally before they realize that you're a giant anaconda wrapping around them, and now they're going to start squeezing the life out of them.
That's right. In the same question, Marco, when you're writing a score or you want to write a score, do you look for something that will, obviously music is emotional, but do you look to write something that would purposely, get under the skin, I guess, per se, to be beyond memorable, but it's really, I remember that music from Psycho, everyone hears that. Do you kind of get that feeling when you're trying to write something?
I don't...
Or is it more just to kind of fit the scene, fit the movie? Is it really, do you just really gear it to what you're doing at the moment?
I'm thinking about what I'm doing at the moment. If the music can work to subvert the audience, it's something that it's great when it happens. I can't say that it's a conscious decision on my part to. I don't know. I have a little bit of trouble talking about the process of what exactly how it works, but I sort of just do what I do.
Yeah, no, that answered the question. Right. I see. You just kind of let it come to you when you're in the moment. Wes, you're a teacher. How long? Literature? What did you study? I didn't know that.
Well, I got a master's in philosophy and what else? Philosophy and writing from Johns Hopkins. So then, by just accident, somebody said, you could teach college. I said, oh, really? So the job I was offered was teaching freshman English and humanities. So I taught history of Western civilization, basically, starting with the Greek myths. So, which I found actually, in the long run, very, very helpful. The Odyssey, the Iliad, those very primal stories, originally verbal, oral tradition stories. That was very, very important to me. And the rest was just, it was just kind of a job, and I was learning at the same time I was teaching it. Because I hadn't studied Greek mythology in graduate school or anything, so it was a process of learning, and then it was very interesting being around. I taught at a school that was an engineering college, but I also, right in the same small town, was a state school that had a very big music program. So I ended up with a lot of sort of student friends and followers or whatever the hell, and a lot of them were musicians, so they introduced me to a lot of more modern music. And I remember the first time a student got me stoned and played B.B. King for me. It's like, whoa, So there was a lot of that sort of ebb and flow of music all around me, from students and from faculty members who were teaching music. And Britain's War Requiem and Carmina Burana, both were. I followed from the time that they first started rehearsing to the time they performed it. It's just so got a really idea of how complex and powerful music could be. So that was kind of a part that was some of the most fruitful time for me musically. Was just being exposed to that much music. But I've played music myself. The guy who taught me how to cut film was Harry Chapin, who at the time was not Harry Chapin, but my first wife is married to one of Harry's brothers now, so I'm still, my daughter's in a group called the Chapin Sisters, so it's like, music has been a big part of kind of the world around me too. But with working with Marco, it's pretty much, as I've said, just you find a guy who seems to speak the same language that you would like to be able to speak musically, and then you just, I try to describe as much as I can emotionally what I want a scene to do, and then just Marco comes back with this wonderful score. There's small things that Marco, we have an important sound effect here, and we need to duck the music a little bit sooner. And there's always that kind of dance between sound effects and music towards the end, because neither one is quite aware of what the other one is doing. But the main course of what Marco does, he sort of does after a few conversations with me and watching the film with me.
So you come in a little later when the film
process. Yeah, the film is sometimes either there's a director's cut already, or it's pretty close, or not always. Sometimes get some scenes early, but usually you need it's better to work having a picture to work from.
So are you, Wes, are you ever really specific with Marco? Like, I'm really looking for this, or is it more, here's the feel, this is what I'm going for, to see what you come up with? Is that really what it's like?
Scream was supposed to only have trombones, remember?
Yeah. Trombones and tambourines. It was sort of a minstrel show sort of thing. And Marco and I were talking about, after we did this kind of Q&A, was that neither one of us can really remember what we do. It's like it's very much of a process of two people that are very comfortable with each other. But I think there are times, I know when, like My Soul to Take, we had this character who was very, very, very innocent and very simple-minded, and then would get more sophisticated as his friends died. Their souls kind of came into him, so he would change subtly. So I think conveyed the idea that I wanted that character to grow musically as well, and Marco worked with that. But beyond that, and they started off with a very simple, almost childlike melody on a prepared piano, I think, to introduce the character in its simplest form. But after that, it's like, Marco comes with ideas and so forth, and we have a couple of sessions where I would go to his studio and listen and give notes. So there's probably, I don't know, it's not many, three or four times of listening to music and giving notes, and then it just kind of starts showing up on the mix stage, and then you can do little fiddles and music editing and so forth, but pretty much Marco, I don't know how he does it, because he goes on very little information quite often.
Just a couple more questions. Marco, your musical influences, I'm sure a variety. Do you ever draw on some of those? You see a scene, Wes tells you a little something, and maybe an Elvis song or a Beatles song kind of plays in your head, and you kind of use that to launch you into a particular scene. Does that ever happen?
Sometimes I will, again, in terms of the source of inspiration, oftentimes it can be music that I've listened to or that I know from the past, or something that I've just recently heard, that it might be something about a particular piece, maybe not the whole piece itself, but something that I think be neat to steal and use in the integrated. I mean, so I think Stravinsky once said, what did he say? He said, a good composer will borrow ideas, and the great one will outright steal them. So maybe, I guess I just borrow the ideas, Yeah, I mean, that's...
The inspiration.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, fantastic. Oh, Wes, let me ask you last question. Anything you can let us know what's coming up in the near future for you? Anything that we can look for?
I are talking about doing an opera.
Really?
Yes.
Theatrical to be in theaters, or?
I think arena shows, Grand Canyon. We're thinking of putting bleachers all along the Grand Canyon, having the audience come by on rafts. No, but seriously, that sounds like a good idea.
That's such a good idea.
You have me going. Sounds great.
But yeah, we've started talking about that. So you never know.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wes Markle, thank you very much. Appreciate it.